Survivor's ready. Go!
Trump spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you make me deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk loud,
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor. Bringing you today's interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host.
Alright, hello and welcome to this week, last week's episode from the Oztopsy show, Oztopsy, whatever this is. Colin, edit whatever you need to figure out what episode this is. It's your host, Anthony Rossi, again, back to recap the 12th episode of season 32. And I'm joined by two regular guests on this show, making her debut since the last 4 years of being absent, Kristen Kanar.
Hello.
And all the way from the land of oatmeal, we have Alec Culver.
You always have the most creative ways to introduce me, Rossi. Always.
Well, we have to rely on something because I do not know much about where you're from other than that you eat oatmeal at this hour.
Hey, it's better than Colin. He forgets me half the time.
Well, I'll try and be nice to Colin because he's editing, so anyway. Let us get started with recapping this episode. And it all started with the return from Tribal after we lost Julia. And immediately Ty goes on the attack, trying to make these decisions because he's newly formed with this group and he's trying to get out Michelle and trying to form his final three group or whatever. And so what is your thoughts? I'll start with you, Kristen. What are your thoughts on how Ty initially started this episode? Did you think he was looking promising to go further down the line, and was his strategy good, or what would you think?
I mean, I don't think it was handled that terribly initially, because if he really, really wanted to work with Aubrey and Joe, and that was his core three, and he thought that was his core three, then that would be the time to play the advantage. So it was probably a good time to come out with that. Obviously, it didn't work out in his favor because of things we may or may not know. I mean, Sydney obviously didn't want him dictating things, and then Aubrey went along with Sydney and Michelle, but I didn't think he made a game-ending mistake in immediately coming back and talking to his alliance about that.
Going to jump to you with the same kind of question, but also going to add on top of it, do you think that he was premature in making this group that he was really recently a part of? Alec, do you think he was too ready to act, or what?
Well, I feel one of the bigger mistakes in Survivor is reacting after a tribal council. Because we've seen a lot of people have mistakes when they get hot-headed right after a tribal, or do something say something stupid right after a tribal and stuff like that. It's just Ty, if he did that in the morning, it would have worked. He didn't say, "Oh, I'm targeting Michelle" right away. That came on later on. But yeah, just he was in the heat of the moment after, this tribal where he thought he was going to go home, and he didn't. His alliance had the numbers and stuff, and so he's like, "Oh, I almost went home, and I want to save myself, so I'm going to tell you guys about this advantage." And kind of it worked, but it didn't at the same time, Wasn't the smartest move, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, at this stage, I'm wondering, because I thought that at the beginning it looked like Ty was kind of the one in control, and it seemed like he was going to be the decision maker, but it also sets him up for what we eventually realized is that his strategy ends up flopping, and he doesn't have any of the say in any of the decisions that went on. At this stage, Kristen, did you think that Ty was in the power position, or were you thinking he was going to go soon or something?
I kind of didn't think that the advantage was going to work. So when he talked about it, I was cautious in thinking that that was actually going to play out the way that he wanted it to, but I didn't think that he was going to be completely on the wrong side. Like, he was the only person who voted for Michelle, and I didn't think at that point at the beginning of the episode that he was going to be like that far on the outs.
Alex, same question.
For me, at the beginning, like after the Scott vote out, that's when I thought Ty had I was the lead runner and had all the power and stuff like that. But then the previous episode when he almost went home, in a sense, because, you know, he didn't have any power in the previous tribal council, then, like, I didn't think he'd go home or anything like that, but I didn't think his position was going to be as strong as probably some people thought coming out of it. Because he was always seemed to be the low person in this alliance, and so it's like he was probably making a move to try to improve his position in this alliance because he realized at the last tribal he's probably the bottom of that alliance. So, the last tribal, I mean, like when Julia gets voted out.
Right. Well, because I honestly thought that Ty was going to be the main person and try and was going to steamroll and his strategy was going to go through and all this stuff was going to happen. I was honestly more so surprised when we eventually get to the tribal council that his strategy was the one that didn't end up panning out. I obviously see why it didn't, but at the beginning I was honestly assumed that Ty was just going to be in it. Because for me, Ty's always been that figure that's always going to get fourth place or get really close to the end, but he's not there. And so I just assumed that would kind of fall in this vein where he's really strong and then he'll fall off. So I guess the next main thing was the reward challenge. We did have some talk between Joe and Jason, which I thought was weird, but do anyone have any comments on that? Or...
Oh, I thought it was ridiculous that Jason was just repeatedly saying how no one was playing the game during that conversation. Eye-rolling the entire time because they don't want him involved means they're not playing the game. Okay, bye.
Yeah. That scene was very interesting. It was not for that point. I think it was 100% to give Joe at least some edit times. Then he actually, is a legitimate non-threat in the finals. But they also had the Mark the Chicken scene where Mark eats the grub and stuff. And because, Mark the Chicken still gets more edit time than Joe in an episode. But yeah, it was just one of those scenes to make it seem like Jason had nowhere to go, which we learn later on he kind of doesn't. But yeah, it's just kind of re-emphasizing Jason's status in the game more than anything. That scene was.
I'm going to totally stop talking about the episode for 1 second. I wanted to know, have you guys seen the intro clip with Mark added into the cast?
Uh-huh.
I just think that's so great. You just reminded me of it, Alec, because you talked about the grub scene. But, if you have not, anyone out there, go check out this opening credits with Mark the Chicken as a cast member.
Seriously, he has a better chance to win than Joe.
Honestly, I've heard more from him than Joe, so...
Well, and that's telling us that they're not going to kill him, right? Because they wouldn't put him into credits online and then be like, oops, somebody's going to rip his head off.
Well, I think it was funny that Jason was like, Mark the Chicken has a better chance to make it 39 days than I do at this point. Just he's going to make it to the end. Because, if Ty gets voted out in the final four, let's say, and he's the one who wants to keep the chicken alive, and they have the feast on day 39, they're not going to kill Mark the Chicken just to add that to the feast, And so I'm pretty sure he's not going to be killed at all, so.
No, I think he's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happens to him after this, but...
Just roams Cambodia.
Does he come back to the U.S.? with
Jeff
Ty.
has to earn and Mark the chicken.
I don't think that works legally for some reason, but
Well, it depends. Was Mark the chicken like bought in Cambodia? Like, how did they deal with the products that they maroon them with? Like, where do they get the fruit and the stuff? Is that from Cambodia?
I don't know.
I don't know. You have to ask like production on that.
All right. Well, next Ozlet show, when we get a production member on, we'll ask them. I guess we go back to the episode now. Our commercial break is over. We had the reward challenge, the dumb ball challenge. I don't remember specifics, but you had to run and then you had to do the ball. Kristen, just talk about it.
Because you don't remember it?
I think you established that.
Anyway, I actually liked this challenge in some capacity just because we've seen challenges like this before, and I liked that they had to do that in the water. I don't know if people play Mario Party, but there's like legit games in Mario Party like this, and I don't know. It wasn't really exciting, but the interest just flows somewhat. They would have had a chance if they weren't so incompetent with the dumb ball.
Alex, same thing. What do you think of the challenge? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it worth it? Do we need it?
Oh, I thought it was. This is probably one of the better challenges they've had this season. Just for like the fact that, as Kristen was talking about, it's just it's a spin on a like traditional challenge, because we've had this one with the table maze and stuff like that multiple times, but this time it was like they had their race through the water, number one, so we got a water challenge. You know, though everybody loves the water challenges. But then on top of it, they had to like work together to do so, and like sometimes like it was a really interesting challenge, and Jason like dominated that challenge too. So it's like very interesting. Like he was just like calling the shots, and then he's just like goes in the water, grabs another ball, comes back, calls the shots. It's like he really wanted to win this award. It seems so. It's a very interesting challenge. I liked it, even if it was just for the reward.
Did you like that we repurpose the revamping of the ball maze or whatever that we always see in every season? Did you like that, Kristen?
Sure.
All right, good answer. That was a dumb question. I'm not going to bother on with the next asking you, Alex. So, what do we think of the reward?
Sure.
What do we think of the reward, Kristen?
I always like rewards like this. I mean, it's not the same as like hanging out with the kids or the local people or whatever, but it was still nice to like see something local. Like I always like those kind of rewards, and I'm not really sure still in retrospect why we were forced to like feel better about Jason at this point, but like they had some cute moments of him talking about his kid, and Ty obviously loves animals, so it was nice for him to be able to go on that reward. So, I mean, it wasn't anything like super exciting to watch, but I still think it was a decent reward.
Alec, what did you think of the reward? Would you want to go with the monkeys in their pen?
Of course, I would love to go with the monkeys in their pen. But yeah, it was just one of those moments where you actually see like the survivors as real people again. Like we'd like to have these moments, these human moments instead of the character moments. And that's kind of like what we got with Jason. That's probably how he acted on his like little daughter, And so, and it kind of just added to Ty wanting to do what he mentioned he wanted to do in the beginning of the episode, because he's like, Jason's actually becoming a good person. And then like later on we have somebody mention about how like even though he might, I think it was Michelle even, because she was on the reward with him, but it was like even though Jason seems to be a good person or whatever, I can't forgive him for that sabotage moments. And so it's like it was one of those things that's like, yeah, he might have his mean moments, maybe with Alicia and the sabotage and stuff like that, but he is human and he can be a good guy, you know? That's about all we got from it, so.
All right. We then go back to camp at this point, where Joe goes on Butch duty from the Amazon, collecting all the firewood. I got major Butch callbacks in this episode with the Joe and this firewood, or even Kristen wouldn't know, but Worlds Apart, there was that big fire issue at one of the camps. I remember well, but
Mike.
Was that then that
Mike and Rodney.
Okay, we had issues with firewood there, so Joe's arguing at Aubrey for sitting down and Sydney for sitting down, and they have to get firewood. Kristen, what'd you make of this? I'm sure you have some opinions on it.
I just was still so confused why Joe was getting so much airtime. I was like, is he going to be medevaced at the end of this episode? Like, I was very confused because this is more Joe than we've seen since the Peter argument pre-merge. So it was kind of confusing, but I did appreciate that Sydney was not going to be junior deputy firewood bitch, and she was having none of it. And I really, really loved Sydney in this episode, and I think some of these moments were really great. And I only got through half of it, but Rob's exit interview with Jason, he also mentioned that Joe just really liked to burn all of the wood, for no reason. And so I guess that was part of what was going on. It's not like nobody wanted to work. It's just they didn't feel like burning all of the wood for nothing. But I don't know. I don't have any super strong opinions on this. It's just I don't know why we were showing so much Joe unless they're just trying to show us something before he's gone. But I do like Grumpy Joe.
It was nice to see the return of Grumpy Joe because we either get no Joe or Grumpy Joe. We don't really get anything in the middle. What did you think of this scene, Alec? Did you like all the Joe screen time, or were you like, who is this old guy? Get him off here.
Well, I like Joe's screen time. I don't think Joe's... the reason why I think Joe burns so much firewood is because Aubrey tells him to sit on a rock and he stays there the whole time, so he has to stay warm while doing so. But, flashback to the previous episode. But, no, it's just I like Grumpy Joe, but I really like the reactions, she was talking about with Sydney and Aubrey. It's them reacting to Grumpy Joe is what really makes it happen. And I kind of feel this is foreshadowing, whether it's he gets medically evacuated or if Sydney for some reason can't deal with Joe in the game for much longer or whatever, and it could be Sydney tries to wage war with Joe because she can't deal the next week with Joe, or maybe Aubrey flips it on Sydney because of that or something. I don't know, but it could be a foreshadowing scene, kind of one of those that doesn't make sense at first. The Brenda finding Dawn's retainer thing, or that could come in factor maybe this next episode, or it could just be, hey, let's get some more Grumpy Joe before he cuts himself open again or something. I don't know.
Oh, can I mention something really quick on this again?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
It kind of ties in with this scene, and then it also comes in later with Ty telling them what to do. But I thought that Sydney's confessionals this episode, I guess some of it was confessional, some of it was conversation with people in the game. But she kept saying how she didn't want anybody calling the shots, and that that's the point where they lose control, and that they need to be the ones in charge, and she doesn't like being told what to do. And I was thinking about that in terms of the early game, and I don't know how much we didn't see, but from what we did see, Sydney must have been playing a damn impressive game over on Braun Beach, because she was probably following along with Jason and Scott the entire time over there, not necessarily wanting to do exactly what they were proposing, but she stuck with it knowing that she wanted to flip on them after she got to the merge. So we've seen her say so much how she hates being told what to do and wants to be in control. But if she was able to hold her shit together until she got to the merge to flip on them, like, she handled that early game part super well. And that's just something I was thinking about when I was watching this for the second time this week.
That's an interesting point to bring up, because Sydney has been very vocal, I guess you could say, or she's been very aware of a lot of things going on, and when she doesn't like it, she'll call it out. So that's definitely something that she could bring up to the jury, considering both of them are there on the jury, if she makes it there, that is. I guess we will get to Sydney's challenge, which is the Joe's worst nightmare, Joe's spelling bee. It was the stacking blocks challenge with the rope and the... Yeah, you got it. You watched the episode. And so it was really close, and then everyone was failing except Sydney. Sydney didn't mess once. And Krista, what were your thoughts on this challenge?
Again, I mentioned that I watched this the second time, and it's so much better in retrospect knowing that she wins and really paying attention to every single thing that Jeff was yelling at her, like that she was completely out of it. She had no chance. And then I think he was even shocked when she came back. But yeah, like you just said, she was the only one that did it correct one time, and that was all she needed. And good on her. I mean, that's not always going to work with every situation, but she, I guess, did what she needed to do to not drop the stack. I feel like I'm stock specific. I don't know. I was just really excited, obviously. I did like that Jason was so close, because that happens a lot. I mean, how many times do we see somebody come in second place in the immunity challenge and then they're the one voted out? I feel like that's, I mean, it's obviously not super common, but also this is what, the sixth person to win immunity or something. I think it's kind of cool that there's only been one person. Okay, my words are not working today.
Nobody has won immunity.
Nobody twice. Yes, thank you. I think that's relatively impressive.
Who won immunity? Can we recap this? I don't remember specifically now.
So Nick won the first one, then Ty, then Julia, then Jason, then Michelle, and now Sydney. So it's been different every time.
Jeez. So do we think that Aubrey or Joe will win the next challenge?
I think one of those people has a shot.
Probably Aubrey.
What? No, Grandpa Joe.
Unless it's not a spelling bee.
What if it's a challenge with the ball, Kristen? Would he win that?
Maybe it's some kind of prune challenge, or name that Perry Como song. Are we just doing Amazon callbacks right now?
I guess so.
Like the most firewood. That's the challenge.
Oh, he can win that, maybe.
Well, maybe if there's the fire making challenge that they usually do in the earlier seasons, maybe he could win that one.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. Poor Joe.
What if you won immunity and got medically evacuated? That'd be like the worst day ever.
Well, I've already said okay, it's not nice at all, but I would totally find it ironic if Ty was actually the one to get medevac with his idol in his pocket. No casual fans are going to find that plausible or nice, but whatever.
I think I would enjoy that more than seeing Joe go or whoever else. Like,
too obvious. I kind of want something surprising to happen. Like, not that I want Ty to be ill, but he's going to come back anyway. So, and he has no chance of winning this season. So, give Ty a chance another season. Let him be the one to be medevac.
The only thing is about this medevac that we're derailing on our other conversation, but whatever. The only thing about this medevac that kind of throws me off is the fact that we really haven't seen any major issues happening. No one's really tired. No one's really hungry. No one's been complaining in any excessive way. So
did we see that before the episode that either of the other guys got medevaced in? I feel like we only really saw Neil's issues in that episode, and Caleb we only saw like in that episode.
Fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, but I'm wondering at this late stage of the game, wouldn't they want to build it up more? I feel like this last one would be more important than the other two. I don't know.
Well, like Eric Reichenbach is probably he's what the latest medevac, I'd have to guess.
Of ever, yeah.
Yeah. So like I don't think there was any build up to that. He like came back from tribal and they were like, okay, bye, and it was. I don't think that there was anything. I can't remember if they showed it in the preview because why would I remember that? But, but that was still like fairly surprising. I think just if you didn't know anything was coming, I don't think that it was like, oh yeah, Eric is like dying out here. So I don't know. I don't want to say too much if people don't watch previews because I did go back and watch the season preview. And it really does look like there's going to be another medevac. And it's somebody of a particular gender. So, I don't know.
Well, like, my thing is, if it is anyone, like, Aubrey has had the foreshadowing with her infection and stuff, but that has gone away. Joe has also had, like, the couple moments where, like, you know, he got the cut on his finger that Peter was treating. He cut his head open during the challenge. And then he, like, gave up during the immunity challenge last week, the one that Michelle won, where, like, he's just like, yeah, I'm done. It's too exhausting, you know? Which makes sense. He's older. Like, doing a lot of physical activity is harder for him. But, like, you know, if we're going by what the others have said, like, you know, Sydney, Michelle, and Ty really haven't had any build-up towards being a medical evacuation. Well, neither did Neil or Caleb, and they were the ones medically evacuated, so it could be one of those three, for all we know. So Ty would probably be the casual fans' least favorite, but the good fans, like, most favorite, because then it'd, like, make it still super interesting on who would win.
I just wanted to be Ty so I can say I was right.
I said Aubrey a few weeks ago, and I don't think I'll be right, so.
Hey, Rossi, are you still hosting?
Yes, I was letting you talk.
Okay. Did you see, I was looking at all the Oswald episodes we did, and one of them was like, there was one comment on one of them, and it was like, stop hating on men.
Was there? I did not.
It was my favorite comment.
Can you find that, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna go find that. Like,
someone find that out.
I don't remember that at all. It was on one of the Oslet pops.
Yeah. I thought it was really funny. I don't know what the episode was, though, so I don't know if it was just, like, me ranting or... But, like, the men are so hard to root for this season, so I kind of, like, I ain't apologizing for that.
It's true. Like, the only man that, like, was kind of... that people could kind of root for was Ty.
And I think people are losing interest in Ty in some capacity. And then, like, it goes back all the way to, like, Caleb, that was a guy that a lot of people were rooting for. I think even, like, the, like, casual people, I haven't gone into the cesspool of the Survivor Facebook page in the last week, but I think that a lot of people have been noticing Aubrey and Sydney more and are at least saying that they, like, they actually care about their strategy and not just, oh, Ty's a nice guy.
Yeah. I would say probably the last guy that was kind of likable that went home was probably Neil. So, like, the two that have been medically evacuated. Those are the two that have been, like...
Neil was on the show every time they bring out the jury, so...
Oh, yeah, that's what a lot of people said, because he got a super crappy edit up to that point. But, like, a lot of people are like, oh, Neil had a good chance to win. It's like, no, he didn't, but we'll go with it.
You find the comment?
Yeah,
I'm trying to find it.
It might be the one for my birthday where we were, like, yelling at each other. April.
Oh, yeah.
April.
Yeah, that episode.
Hello, Robert. Robert says, please tone down the man hate on these episodes. It was a little hard to listen to.
What episode?
Robert, I don't apologize because these men are terrible. You're welcome. It was the Go Wrong episode 8 recap.
Okay.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Let's actually do something.
Was that enough filler?
Yeah. All right. We'll get back into
Kristen
it.
hates men, everybody. There you go.
No one hates.
Kristen, you're making these episodes a little hard to listen to.
That's fine.
Anyway, okay. Alec, talk about the immunity challenge and the not stupid ball, the stupid blocks.
I actually enjoyed the challenge. I thought it was very interesting. One of my friends, she doesn't watch Survivor very often, but she was watching it because I was like just talking to her and she's like, I watched the like last half hour, so she watched from like the immunity challenge on, and she like really enjoyed this immunity challenge, because it was like so intense that like the lead changes and all that, and like Sydney ends up winning, and I will say I love Grumpy Joe, but I really love, how do I phrase this, like not being able to spell Joe, like comic relief Joe, you know, like him giving up in the immunity challenge last week, that was funny, and then like this week him like not being able to spell immunity again was great, like, and he was winning the challenge for the good half of it, like, you know, he was like a block ahead of everybody, and then like he falls and then he can't figure out how to spell immunity. Like he'd always bring the wrong block up, and it's just like, dang it, like immunity does not end with an I. I will tell you that, Joe. But yeah, it was intense. Like Jason dropping all of his blocks when he's literally a step away from winning immunity, like, was probably the most like heartbreaking thing since Caleb's like towers fell on Redemption Island with 30 seconds left in that challenge, like his card tower. And so it's just like, it was a very good challenge. Probably one of the better ones to watch this season, although the like domino one was pretty fun to watch as well. Like they've had pretty decent challenges this season, but this is probably, in my opinion, probably the best immunity challenge they've done so far in terms of intensity.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they like all came back to camp and were like, that was a really fun challenge. I really like that one. Like, I don't feel like we see that often.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we see people put that in there. Like,
well, especially people that didn't win. Like, to be like, wow, that was really fun, even though I didn't win, was kind of interesting for them to show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else get the impression, because the last time we saw this challenge, I think, someone can quote me or look this up or whatever.
Del Sur.
Yeah, you know, I was going to say the John and San Juan del Sur when he won it.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking, because the last time this challenge was used, it saved the person that was supposed to go home in the episode. So all of this entire challenge, I was expecting Jason to win because, oh, he's going to go home, so he's going to win. Did anyone else feel like that, or was that just me?
I thought so too, because like it was building up in this episode that Jason wasn't going to be a target. Like he was, but he wasn't at the same time. And it was like Michelle was going to go home or Ty was going to get blindsided. One of those two things. It was like that's kind of what it was going for. And Jason was just like, you know how they always have that one person that like they're trying to defect it to because they're going to go home. Like Jason couldn't find anyone to strategize with, and it's like so. To him, the only way he could win was to win immunity. And so I was expecting that. So then they had to go with either Ty's plan or flip a plan, like changing plans and stuff. And so that's why I also thought they were showing Joe a lot, because I thought if Jason wins immunity, then Joe might go home. But then he dropped his box. Darn it. I like Jason as a character, so.
Should I give you the floor, Kristen, or do I let it slide?
Jason sucks as a character and as everything, but that's fine. He's gone, so I don't care.
Okay. So then we will just move on. before we have any extra rants, any extra christening moments going on.
Team Sydney. Tyson won this challenge in Blood versus Water, so maybe it's not John Mish, maybe it's Tyson. Sydney's not winning this game, but whatever.
All right. So after the challenge, we get back to camp, and Ty gets the group together and says that everyone's voting for Michelle and wraps it up. And obviously, Sydney does not like letting anyone tell her what to do. So she told Michelle, and all this sort of stuff happened, and trying to reel in Aubrey. What did you make of the way that Ty/Sydney handled the situation, Kristen?
Again, I keep saying this, on a second watch, I didn't think it was as bad as it came across the first time, because we are recording this very late, and I have listened to a lot of other podcasts, and I heard some people talking about how Ty didn't have that much time. They were kind of in the water. He was trying to just get his idea out, and I do see that. I don't think it was as bad as, I think Aubrey kept commenting on how, like, it wasn't democratic and it wasn't, like, he didn't handle it well. It had, like, shades of Debbie when she started to fall apart, but I didn't think it was that bad. I think he was just trying to really quickly be like, okay, this is what we should do. I think this is what we should do. Okay, Michelle's here. We have to stop. Like, I don't think it was awful. I think he probably handles himself worse at Tribal, but I do also wonder about like if there's some sort of language barrier going on here, and if that's affecting his game at all. I don't know if we've dealt with that. Have we dealt with that before?
Abby?
Yeah, that probably came up a little bit. But I mean, Ty is clearly intelligent, but I do think sometimes he says things in a way that you probably shouldn't say them, but I'm not sure that he realizes the way they come across. And I don't know. I don't think that there was anything terrible about what he was doing. I don't think it didn't work, is really all I have to say.
We could also look to Cowboy, I feel like would be a good example to relate to this.
And that wasn't even a language barrier necessarily. That was like a cultural barrier.
Yeah, just like a major difference in how he said something that was, in his mind, was one way, but everyone else was like, whoa, don't do that or don't say that, kind of. So I think a Cowboy would be a good reference. I think Abby traces of it because she says things, but also I think Abby's just kind of abrasive, so. Alec, what are your thoughts on Ty's trying to control the game?
I thought it was very ironic. Like, I thought Ty's attempt to try to get Michelle out was not nearly as forceful or this is the way it's going to go as Sydney talking to Aubrey about we got to get Jason out. I thought, like, I'm totally on Sydney's board. I think Sydney deserves to win this game. But like, you know, she's like, I'm not going to be told what to do. And then she goes and, like, tells Aubrey, like, you have to vote Jason out, basically. Like, we got to go with Jason, no matter what, 100%. It's, like, a lot more abrasive than Ty was doing with Michelle. It's just, he was just like, and, like, Aubrey was even like, oh, I actually kind of agree with Ty. Like, getting Michelle out is the smarter thing or whatever. And like, Sydney's like, no. Like, it's Jason tonight. It's got to be Jason. Like, you know, it's like, I thought that was very ironic that Sydney's very much like, we're going to do, like, what's best for everybody, but I think it's best to get rid of Jason, so this is what I wanted to do, which I think is good for her because that is what's best for her, and the game is getting rid of Jason. But, like, you know, I thought that was ironic that Sydney doesn't want to be told what to do, but she was also very controlling in what was going to happen, which Aubrey, of course, still had a choice, you know, but I just thought that was very ironic. But Ty trying to control it, I feel, yeah, it was more of he was in a hurried state because, you know, that was the core alliance, was the five of them. So the five of them were going to be like, oh, it's Jason, right? Well, for the, like, 30 seconds while Michelle's away from them, that's all Ty has to be able to pitch the idea to them. And so it was like, it kind of made sense that was, that it seemed that way because Ty was just like, okay, I've got to have a little amount of time. I want to get rid of Michelle. Think it's the best idea. Here's how we're going to do it. Da, 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 da. It's like he really only had a certain amount of time before he knew that Michelle was going to come over and join them at the beach. And so, like, did it come off maybe a little bit controlling? Maybe. Do I think it was as bad as it was portrayed on TV? No, not at all. I thought Sydney's was portrayed better on TV for being probably the exact same situation. But overall, I like Sydney's move to get rid of Jason as well. I thought for sure the best move would have been for Sydney to get together with like Aubrey and Michelle and to flip on Ty. That would have been my choice. Even though he does have the idol, he wasn't planning on using it at all because he had his advantage. And so it's like, if you got enough votes to vote Ty out, get him out this episode because he wasn't going to use his idol at all. And so, because for me, when it comes to Survivor, I would rather keep the person in the game that I know 100% where they stand, and like Jason, who is all alone, versus somebody who's flip-flopping, like kind of a little, you don't know where he might stand as Ty. And so that's what I would have done if I was Sydney. But if the limited amount of time they might have had, it kind of made sense to just stick with the plan to get rid of Jason. And so yeah, I thought the Ty situation, it was just, he had a small amount of time, maybe like 30 seconds before, like maybe Michelle was walking to the beach when he started talking, so he knew he had to go through it fast and could have just seemed as controlling, but I don't think it kind of was. So.
The only problem with flipping on Ty is that I don't think that Sydney or Michelle knew anything about his advantage, and I don't think Sydney would have, I think that they really thought it was like a clue to another idol or something, and that he had the other idol, which doesn't exist because, again, people have mentioned many times that these people did not see either of the last two seasons in full, so they didn't even know that an extra vote existed. So I don't know how Sydney would have been able to pull something off like that. Like, I think that she ended up just going with, like, Jason has clearly had something against her since she flipped on them because she's been the person that they've thrown their votes on a few times. And I don't see how she would have been able to come up with that idea. Like, Aubrey could have come out with that because she knew about the advantage. But I think that for Sydney, this was really the only good option she could have gone with.
Yeah, it is the only good option. I think the reason why Aubrey didn't come up with that option was because she was actually on board with the plan to get rid of Michelle, which I actually thought would have been a better plan than to get rid of Jason at this point. But yeah, it makes sense. Like, Sydney didn't know of the advantage. They probably just thought, oh, Ty has two idols. He can play one now, play one next time, and be in the final four. And so they're like, okay, we're not going to vote for him tonight. That's probably what they thought last Tribal, too, when Sydney and Michelle decided to stick with the Julia vote out. So,
well, Sydney's play to go against Jason as opposed to Ty only really works because there's more of a chance that Aubrey and Joe would do that. I don't think that they would be as willing to vote for Ty just because that they had that final three deal with him. I don't think that they would likely flip on that. So that's why I think the Jason plan was the safest.
The only one to do so Sydney could get Michelle and Aubrey, and then you'd have, like, the numbers in a way. But Aubrey would be, or, like, even if Sydney just got, like, Michelle and Jason to do so. Like, Jason would have voted against Ty. Easy, you know?
But instead, you got him voting for Joe.
Exactly. Which makes no sense. So...
I guess we could talk about Tribal Council because that's, for me, is where Ty's game really always just falls apart. Like, he may be really good, like, he could be really good at the beginning, and then all of a sudden he gets a Tribal Council and everything blows up. Because I think that's where, like, Ty going down really shows. Because people, Jeff and Michelle and Sydney were all kind of confronting him with all these things. And he's like, oh, well, I didn't have to meet with Sydney. We didn't have to talk about it. We know what we were doing. And so I think that all of his negotiations really kind of show it's Tribal. Kristen, what did you think about how Ty played Tribal Council?
it was not done well at all, clearly. I mean, I think that was the moment or moments, whatever. That whole scene was when people started saying, like, okay, I don't think Ty has a chance to win this game anymore. Because we saw what Jason was saying about him, like, flipping, and then them cutting to the jury. And, like, like, I feel like Scott and Jason hold something against Ty. And then, I mean, this is changing the subject a little bit, but I mean, Michelle going after him seemed to be a good plan, even though she wasn't going home. I don't know if she didn't know. I don't know if she knew she wasn't going home, but I feel like she handled that super well. The way she was talking about him and his malarkey and whatever. Like, she did that all in front of the jury, so people got to see her trying to, like, fight for her life, even if she maybe wasn't. So I think Michelle really shined there, where Ty just fell apart. And really, I am back. I know the last time we talked was many weeks ago, and I said no guy has a chance of winning this game. I am even higher on that than I was last time.
Alec, what are your thoughts on the way Michelle/Ty handle tribal council?
Yeah, if you listen to last week's Oztopsy, whatever the crap it was, but the only guy that we said had a chance of winning the game was Jason, but the thing is he had to make it to the end of the game. Like we said, Ty and Joe had no chance of winning the game, and like this just proved it. And I think this made it so then Ty has like a 0% chance of winning the game, and Michelle has that much better chance of winning the game, because I feel this is more of where the language barrier, I guess you could say, comes in effect with Ty, more than him communicating with the tribe mates. Like, if you get a high pressure situation and you like put people on the spot, if they aren't very well versed in the way of speaking, then they're probably gonna fall flat. And I feel that's kind of what it is with Ty, because he, English isn't his first language. So putting him on the spot, he sometimes won't know exactly what he needs to say. Yeah, by we, I meant the people who were on last week. And so Ty, I feel he just says what he knows or understands about things. And so, he doesn't really realize that other people are doing things as well. Like, we can go back to him talking about the super idol at Tribal Council back when Nick was voted out. It was like, where the crap did he come up with that one? Like, there's no point in saying it, but that's just what he came to his mind and stuff. And I feel he's just the person who doesn't think he might think before he speaks, but he doesn't think long and hard before he speaks. And so for me at that tribal council, it makes it more certain that I want Ty in the finals, because he's going to have that speech that nobody's going to want to listen to, because he's kind of just going to dig himself a hole. I love Ty, but he can't do tribal councils at all. The Nick vote out, the bad tribal council. The Debbie vote out, that one was interesting. I can't remember much on that one. Scott vote out was probably by far his best tribal council. Then the Julia vote out, bad tribal council. Jason vote out, bad tribal council. Since the merge, he's had nothing but bad tribal council. It's just other than the Scott vote out, but and so it's just he just doesn't know he can't handle himself well under pressure, I think is what it is. And so it's just that moment. He had a Keith Nail moment where he, not as much as he did before, I talked about sticking to the plan. But yeah, it's just he can't handle himself well under pressure, I think is kind of what it is. And he was still under the impression that his alliance was going to go with the Michelle vote out, and I feel that's the reason why he was the way he was at Tribal, where he was like, oh yeah, we're going to go this way because, Michelle's a big threat. It's just well, no, they turned against you. I hate to tell you, and so that's where I think Ty is with, because I don't think he realizes that other people talk after they talk with him, and so that might be the reason why he thought that when he went to Tribal, but who knows? I just feel he cracks under pressure more than anything.
Any other thoughts on anything? Do we have any final words to say about Jason? Kristen, anything?
Congrats on never voting correctly ever after the merge, and boy bye.
Who did he vote? I'm trying to think of who he voted for now. Over the...
Never the right person.
Yeah, he never got the right person.
Sydney when Nick went home.
Sydney when Debbie.
Oh,
yeah,
was it not
Aubrey
Sydney
when
and
Nick went
Nick?
home.
Whatever. I don't have Wikipedia.
All I know is that he voted for Sydney when Debbie went home.
I just know he voted wrong every week, and it made me really happy.
Any final thoughts on him, Alec?
I enjoyed him as a character, which I know Kristen will probably totally disagree with. But I thought it was very interesting, even though like he obviously wasn't the greatest player of this game. I thought his confessionals were very, very enjoyable. Like he had some of the most quotable confessionals, like him saying that Mark the Chicken will make it to day 39 and stuff like that, or his very first confessional when he talks about my job is to like come in, kick down your door, arrest you, and go get my paycheck or whatever. It's like, so I thought he was a solid confessionalist, probably pretty bad player, and he was very well spoken. I will say that him at Tribal was pretty well spoken, although he hammed up for the cameras it seems sometimes too. But yeah.
I will add something that's not super terrible because he is terrible at this game, but now I don't remember the good part. What else to say about him? Shit. Never mind. Just we can.
All right, we'll move on.
I really had something not terrible to say. Oh, actually, it was terrible. Never mind. I can say it anyway. I was just going to mention, I think that he's the kind of person that really never needs to be brought back, even though he might, because I think he's incapable of seeing his flaws in his game and would do basically the Russell Hantz of playing the exact same game as he did the first time and still not understand why it didn't work. And that's what I have to say about him.
I feel that's what he would be on a repeat season, which is why I'd want him back again, just for the entertainment factor.
Yeah, but like there's people are supposed to like grow and learn things and play better. Like I didn't get that far into his exit interview with Rob, but I heard that he like tried comparing himself to Tyson because Tyson's a villain and Tyson won. But Tyson was not a super villain in the season he won. He was a much nicer guy in the season he won. He wasn't harassing Sierra in the season he won. So I think that Jason just doesn't have that growth ability like some of the other people. I think he would just do the Russell Hantz thing, come back, be annoying, not understand why everyone didn't want to talk to him, and then that's it. So I could see him coming back, though, just if they needed a villain of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
So I wanted to see if we could play a game. I know you don't like games, Kristen.
I hate games.
It may not be a game, but we'll see. We'll see. I wanted to see, because on one of the last episodes, we did a thing about who had the best chance of winning and the least chance of winning, and some people were saying Ty had the best chance or whatever.
I yelled at them on Twitter.
Yes, and Kristen.
I'm looking at you, Patty G, who probably doesn't listen to this podcast, but that's fine.
Check Kristen's Twitter for more interesting tweets. But I want to see if this time we could see where they would fall as not as chances of winning, but actually like where they would place in the fight of the final five. Are we at final five? Mm-hmm. So who's going to get fifth? Who's going to get first?
I feel like the medevac ruins this.
Well, count that in. Consider the medevac.
Well, we don't know when the medevac's happening.
Well, then just pretend.
We never know when the medevac's happening.
I know. It's just so difficult to...
Pretend, Kristen. Alec, do you want to go first?
So we're doing
who's going to get fifth?
They're going to finish.
Yeah, where they're going to finish, fifth to first.
Okay, so I'm still under the belief that this will be a final two. So I'm going to base it around that. I think Aubrey has the best chance, is going to finish first. And then Ty's going to finish second. Like, Aubrey's going to take Ty to the end. Because her original plan is going to be to take Joe, but he's going to get medically evacuated. I think Sydney will be third, Michelle fourth, Joe fifth. I think the medevac's going to be in this next episode.
Kristen, do you want me to go, or should you go, or are you not going to play?
I don't think I'm ever gonna have an answer because I'm the asshole here that's like, I hope it's Ty that gets medevaced in the next episode, which would be having him go out in fifth, which is very unlikely because he has an idol if he doesn't get medevaced.
That was my preseason pick.
So I think that we will get Joe medevaced in fifth place. I don't know when, before challenges, whenever. He's gonna be next before the tribal council. Then Ty will be voted out. Then we get Sydney in third, Michelle second, and first being Aubrey. However, I would like Michelle to win, just because I got money riding on this. I don't know.
Well,
that's all I got.
I've got money on Sydney, so...
So is she your number one?
I mean, I don't think she's gonna win, but she's my favorite. I don't know. The three women I'm so torn on, but I'm still I think I said this weeks ago. I'm certain one of these three women is gonna win, so I'm content regardless. I just want Sydney to finish in the top three so I get something.
For the first time?
Yeah, we talked about this before. I had fucking Julie McGee and Nina and PG. Come on.
Okay. All right, I forgot.
I deserve it.
If you get fourth, I swear.
Hey, I had Wentworth, okay? So
Oh.
that was my first time in the sweepstakes. I had Wentworth, and then she got fourth.
That
and then
stinks.
I had Anna this season, which looked promising, but tribal switches,
Okay. I think that's all that I have for this because we have too much filler. We're just going to end this unless anyone has anything else they want to say.
I want Sydney to win. I don't think she will. That's why I have her in the third place slot, because if it's a final two, then an Aubrey to Widow immunity cut Sydney out. I want her to win, though. She's probably the best player of the ones in the game.
Okay. I'd like to drop a quick shout out to Colin. Thanks, Colin. And that's going to be it. So, thanks, Chris.
I'm going to edit that out so bad.
So, thanks, Kristen, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's been like a 5-month hiatus for you. I'm glad you didn't give up Survivor in the time being.
Dude, I'm going to finally get through a whole season of Survivor. It's awesome.
And thank you, Alec, for joining us during your dinner hour. We appreciate it.
No problem. I'm finally going to make it through my 32nd season of Survivor.
Ooh, who got you, Kristen? Ooh.
Well, I didn't have to stop working the last few seasons, so I win.
Ooh, he got you. She got you back.
Okay, we're done. Bye.
Okay, this is the episode signing off. Goodbye.